The pain hit me like a sledgehammer to the chest as I reached for my morning coffee. One moment I was standing in my kitchen, watching the steam rise from my favorite mug, and the next I was gasping for air, clutching the counter as fire spread across my ribs. The mug slipped from my fingers and shattered on the linoleum floor, coffee splashing everywhere like dark blood. I tried to call out, but who would hear me? Thomas and Benjamin hadn't visited in months. The house felt so empty without Margaret's laughter echoing through these rooms. 43 years we lived here together, and now it was just me and the memories trapped in these walls. My legs gave out, and I crashed to the floor, my hip hitting hard against the cabinet. The broken ceramic pieces cut into my palm as I tried to push myself up, but my body wouldn't obey. Each breath felt like swallowing glass. This wasn't like the other times when I'd felt dizzy or short of breath. This was different. This was the real thing. Through the haze of pain, I managed to reach my phone that had fallen beside me. My fingers shook as I dialed 911, barely able to speak when the operator answered. "Please," I wheezed. "I think I'm having a heart attack." The next few minutes blurred together, sirens wailing in the distance, growing louder, paramedics bursting through my front door, their voices urgent and professional, oxygen mask over my face, needles in my arm, the ceiling of my house disappearing as they wheeled me out on a stretcher. In the ambulance, as the machines beeped around me, I thought about the secret I'd kept for so long. Hidden in my bedroom closet, behind Margaret's old dresses that I couldn't bear to give away, was a small safe. Inside were documents that would shock my boys. Bank statements showing millions of dollars, investment portfolios that had grown beyond my wildest dreams. The patent paperwork for the construction tool I'd invented 20 years ago that still earned royalties every month. I'd started investing Margaret's life insurance money after she died, following advice from her sister Eleanor, who worked at the bank. What began as a way to secure my boys' future had grown into something incredible. Every month, I'd take my modest carpenter's pension and live simply, while my real wealth multiplied in accounts they knew nothing about. I'd planned to tell them eventually, maybe when they got married, or when they had children of their own. I wanted them to learn the value of hard work first, to build their own character before they knew about the money. Margaret always said money without character was dangerous, and I'd seen too many families destroyed by inherited wealth. But as the years passed, something changed in my boys. They started looking at my small house with embarrassment. They'd make excuses not to visit, claiming they were too busy with their important lives. When they did come around, I could see the shame in their eyes when they looked at my worn furniture and old clothes. The ambulance doors flew open, and I was rushed into the emergency room. Bright lights flashed overhead as doctors and nurses surrounded me, shouting medical terms I didn't understand. Someone was cutting my shirt off. Machines were beeping frantically. Through it all, I kept thinking about Thomas and Benjamin. They had no idea their old man was worth more than $8 million. They thought I was just a poor carpenter who'd barely scraped by after their mother died. If only they knew that every month I quietly donated thousands to the children's hospital, that I'd paid for 3 families' medical bills just this year, that I could have bought them anything they wanted. But I'd wanted them to want me, not my money. Hours later, I was stable but weak in the cardiac unit. Dr. Reeves, who'd been my physician for 15 years, sat beside my bed with a concerned expression. She'd always been kind to me, never making me feel like just another old man taking up space. "Harold, we need to call your emergency contacts," she said gently. "Your condition was very serious. You had a massive heart attack, and while you're stable now, the next few days are critical." I nodded weakly and gave her Thomas's number. My eldest son, the one who used to help me in my workshop when he was small, building birdhouses and learning to use tools. Now he was some kind of real estate developer, married to a woman who looked at me like I was something she'd scrape off her shoe. Dr. Reeves stepped outside to make the call. Through the thin walls, I could hear her voice, professional but urgent. "This is Dr. Reeves from General Hospital." Your father has had a severe heart attack and is in critical condition. We need you to come in immediately." Then I heard the words that shattered what was left of my heart. "We can't come right now. My wife's having her annual charity gala tonight. It's been planned for months." Dr. Reeves's voice became more insistent. "Sir, I need you to understand the severity of this situation. Your father nearly died today. The next 24 hours are crucial. Look, doctor, my father has had health scares before. He's tough as nails. We'll try to stop by tomorrow or the day after, once things settle down here." I closed my eyes, feeling a different kind of pain now. Not the physical agony in my chest, but something deeper. Something that hurt worse than any heart attack ever could. My boys were choosing a party over their father's life. The crystal chandelier cast dancing shadows across the marble foyer as I adjusted my bow tie for the third time. Veronica's charity gala was in full swing, and our house buzzed with the chatter of the city's elite. Women in designer gowns glided past carrying champagne flutes, their jewelry catching the light like tiny stars. Men in expensive tuxedos discussed business deals and golf handicaps. I should have felt proud. This was exactly the kind of life I dreamed of when I was growing up in Dad's cramped little house, watching him come home covered in sawdust and paint. But tonight, something felt off. Maybe it was the credit card bill I'd hidden in my desk drawer this morning, or the way my stomach churned every time someone complimented our beautiful home that we could barely afford. "Thomas, darling, you look pale," Veronica whispered as she glided up to me, resplendent in a silver gown that cost more than most people's monthly salary. "The Weatherbys are here, and I need you to charm them. Their donation could make or break this event." I forced a smile and nodded. Veronica had spent months planning this gala, calling in every favor and social connection we had. The success of tonight would determine our standing in the community for the next year. We couldn't afford any mistakes, literally or figuratively. Benjamin appeared at my elbow, tugging at his collar uncomfortably. My younger brother had never been comfortable at these events, but he'd learned to play the part. His wife had stayed home with their kids, claiming a headache, but I knew the real reason. These gatherings made her as nervous as they made him. "Quite a turnout," Benjamin said, scanning the crowd. Veronica outdid herself. "She always does," I replied, though my mind wandered to the conversation I'd had with our accountant last week. The numbers weren't adding up. My real estate business was struggling, and maintaining this lifestyle was bleeding us dry. But Veronica insisted we had to keep up appearances. "Fake it till you make it," she always said. The irony wasn't lost on me. Here we were, surrounded by wealth and luxury, while Dad lived in that same old house, with the creaky floors and outdated kitchen. Sometimes I felt guilty about how far we'd drifted from him, but what was I supposed to do? Invite him to events like this? He'd show up in his old cardigan and work boots, talking about carpentry and embarrassing us in front of people who mattered. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I glanced at the screen and saw an unknown number, probably a telemarketer. I sent it to voicemail and turned my attention back to the party. "Mr. Mitchell?" A waiter appeared with a silver tray. "There's a phone call for you." The caller said it was urgent. Veronica shot me a warning look. Nothing was supposed to interrupt her perfect evening. I excused myself and stepped into the study, closing the door behind me to muffle the party noise. "This is Thomas Mitchell. Mr. Mitchell, this is Dr. Reeves from General Hospital. Your father has had a severe heart attack and is in critical condition. We need you to come in immediately." The words hit me like cold water. Dad? A heart attack? But he'd always been so strong, so stubborn. Even at 72, he still insisted on doing his own yard work and home repairs. How serious is it?" I asked, sinking into the leather chair behind my desk. "Very serious, Mr. Mitchell. He nearly died today. The next 24 hours are crucial for his recovery." Through the study door, I could hear Veronica's laughter tinkling like wind chimes as she entertained the guests. The Weatherbys were probably wondering where I'd disappeared to. This was the worst possible timing. "Doctor, I appreciate you calling, but we can't come right now. My wife's having her annual charity gala tonight. It's been planned for months. There are very important people here. Sir, I need you to understand the severity of this situation. Your father nearly died today. I rubbed my temples, feeling a headache building. Dad had had health scares before. Last year it was his blood pressure. And the year before that, he'd thought he was having chest pains that turned out to be indigestion. He was tough as nails, always had been. He'd raised Benjamin and me single-handedly after Mom died, working 2 jobs and never complaining. Look, doctor, my father has had health scares before. He's tough as nails. We'll try to stop by tomorrow or the day after, once things settle down here. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Mr. Mitchell, this could be his last chance to see his family. My chest tightened, but I pushed the feeling away. Dad was a fighter. He'd survived losing Mom, raising 2 boys alone, and decades of hard physical labor. One heart attack wasn't going to take him down. We'll be there as soon as we can, I said, and hung up. I sat in the quiet study for a moment, staring at the family photo on my desk. It was from Benjamin's wedding 5 years ago. Dad looked uncomfortable in his rented tux, but he was smiling. When was the last time I'd seen him smile like that? The study door opened, and Veronica swept in, her face flushed with excitement and champagne. Thomas, what are you doing hiding in here? The Weatherby's are asking about our summer home in the Hamptons, and I need you to back up my story about the renovations. We didn't have a summer home in the Hamptons. We could barely afford this house. That was the hospital, I said quietly. Dad's had a heart attack. Veronica's expression shifted from annoyance to calculation. Oh no, that's terrible. But surely he's in good hands? The doctors will take care of him. They want us to come now. Now. Her voice rose an octave. Thomas, we can't leave now. Do you see who's out there? The mayor, 3 city council members, the Weatherby's, the Ashfords. If we disappear in the middle of my gala, we'll be social pariahs. Your father will understand. Would he? I thought about all the times he'd called over the past few months, and how I'd let them go to voicemail because I was too busy or too tired to deal with his loneliness. When was the last time I'd actually visited him? Christmas? No. We'd gone to Veronica's parents' house in Connecticut for Christmas. The doctor said it was serious, I said weakly. Veronica moved closer, her perfume overwhelming in the small space. Darling, your father is strong. He's survived everything life has thrown at him. One night won't make a difference. But this gala could make or break our reputation. We've invested everything in tonight. She was right, of course. We had invested everything. Our credit cards were maxed out, our savings depleted. If tonight was a failure, we'd be finished in this town. Benjamin appeared in the doorway, looking concerned. Everything okay? People are asking where you went. Dad's in the hospital, I said. Heart attack. Benjamin's face went pale. Is he? He's stable, I said quickly. The doctor wants us to come, but we can't leave, Veronica finished firmly. Not tonight. Your father would want you to honor your commitments. Benjamin looked between us, uncertainty written across his face. I could see him weighing his options, just like I was. Duty to our father versus duty to our carefully constructed lives. In the end, we made our choice. We stayed at the party. The machines around my bed hummed and beeped in a rhythm that had become my only companion. 3 days had passed since the heart attack, and the cardiac unit had become my entire world. White walls, antiseptic smells, and the constant shuffle of nurses checking on patients who had people who cared about them. I stared at the ceiling tiles, counting the small holes in each square for the 100th time. Anything to keep my mind off the silence of my phone. Dr. Reeves had called Thomas twice more, and Benjamin once. Each time, they had excuses. Thomas was closing an important deal. Benjamin had a work conference. They'd visit soon, they promised. Soon. But soon never came. The night nurse, Maria, brought me my evening medications with a gentle smile. She was young, probably around the age my boys were when Margaret died. She reminded me of my late wife sometimes, the way she hummed softly while checking my IV. "How are we feeling tonight, Mr. Mitchell?" she asked, adjusting my pillows. "Like an old fool," I whispered, my voice still hoarse from the breathing tube they'd removed yesterday. "Now why would you say that?" I turned my head toward the window, watching the city lights twinkle in the distance. Somewhere out there, my sons were living their lives, probably at another fancy dinner or business meeting. They'd built themselves a world where their old man didn't fit. "I spent 40 years thinking I was teaching them the right lessons," I said. "Work hard. Save your money. Don't show off what you have." I wanted them to be humble, to understand the value of things. Maria sat down in the visitor's chair that had remained empty for 3 days. "Tell me about them." So I did. I told her about Thomas, how he used to follow me around the workshop when he was 5, wearing a tiny tool belt I'd made him for Christmas. How he'd hand me nails and screws, so proud to be helping Daddy build things. I told her about Benjamin, quieter but just as eager, who'd sit for hours watching me sand wood, asking endless questions about why we did things certain ways. "They were good boys," I said, my chest tightening with more than just physical pain. After their mother died, it was just the 3 of us. I worked construction during the day and did carpentry jobs at night to keep food on the table and save for their college. What I didn't tell Maria was about the other work I'd been doing. The late nights spent not just building cabinets and fixing porches, but sketching designs for a revolutionary construction tool. The patent I'd filed when the boys were in high school. The royalty checks that started small but grew larger each year as construction companies across the country adopted my invention. I'd been so careful to hide my growing wealth. The investment account Eleanor helped me set up had grown from Margaret's life insurance money into something extraordinary. Every month, I'd deposit my modest pension into my regular checking account and live off that, while my real fortune multiplied in secret accounts. $8.3 million. That's what Eleanor had told me during our last phone call before the heart attack. $8.3 million that my boys knew nothing about. I'd planned it all so carefully. When they graduated college, I'd help them with their first homes, but not too much. When they got married, maybe a nice wedding gift, but nothing extravagant. I wanted them to build their own character first, to prove they could stand on their own feet. But somewhere along the way, they'd started looking at me differently. I saw it in their eyes during their rare visits. Embarrassment, shame. They'd made something of themselves, or at least they thought they had, and their poor carpenter father was a reminder of where they'd come from. If only they knew that their poor father could buy and sell most of their fancy friends. Dr. Reeves appeared in the doorway, her expression troubled. She'd been checking on me more frequently than her other patients, and I suspected it wasn't just because of my medical condition. "Harold, how are you feeling today?" "Like a man whose sons are too busy for him," I said honestly. She pulled up a chair beside Maria. "I've called them several times. I've explained that while you're stable, you're not out of the woods yet. The next few weeks are critical for your recovery." "And what do they say?" Dr. Reeves hesitated. "They say they'll try to visit when their schedules allow." When their schedules allow. As if their father's life was an appointment that could be rescheduled. That night, alone in the darkness of the cardiac unit, I made a decision that would change everything. I reached for the phone beside my bed and dialed Eleanor's number. My sister-in-law answered on the second ring, her voice immediately concerned. "Harold, it's so late. Are you all right?" "Eleanor, I need you to do something for me. Something important." I told her about the heart attack, about my son's absence, about the choice I was facing. Eleanor listened without judgment, though I could hear her sharp intake of breath when I explained what I wanted to do. "Are you certain about this, Harold? Once it's done, there's no going back." I've never been more certain of anything in my life. The next morning, I asked Maria for paper and a pen. My hands shook as I wrote, partly from the medications and partly from the weight of what I was putting down on paper. 2 letters, one for my sons, explaining my decision, another from my lawyer, with very specific instructions. Dr. Reeves found me that afternoon, staring out the window at the parking lot below. I'd been watching for 3 hours, hoping to see Thomas's BMW or Benjamin's sedan pulling into a visitor space. But the only cars that came and went belonged to other families visiting their loved ones. Harold, I have some good news. Your latest tests show significant improvement. If you continue to progress like this, we might be able to discharge you in a few days. That is good news, I said, though my voice lacked enthusiasm. Have you thought about what you'll do when you go home? You'll need someone to check on you, help with medications, maybe prepare meals for a while. I turned from the window to look at her. This woman had shown me more kindness in 4 days than my own sons had in years. She'd sat with me during the worst moments, explained every procedure, made sure I wasn't afraid. Dr. Reeves, what would you say if I told you I wasn't planning to go home? Her eyebrows rose in concern. What do you mean? I mean, what if home isn't really home anymore? That evening, I made another phone call, this one to a place 3,000 miles away, where Margaret's sister lived in a retirement community that felt more like a resort than an old folks' home. Eleanor had been trying to convince me to move there for years. There's a lovely apartment available, she said when I explained my situation. Ocean view, close to the community center. You'd love it here, Harold. And you'd be near family who actually wants to spend time with you. As I hung up the phone, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Peace. For the first time since Margaret died, I was making a decision based on what I wanted, not what I thought I should do. My sons would come eventually. Guilt or social pressure would finally drive them to the hospital. But when they arrived, they'd find an empty bed and a letter that would change their lives forever. The old Harold would have waited, hoped, forgiven them again. But the man lying in this hospital bed, surrounded by strangers who cared more about him than his own children, was done waiting. The morning sun streamed through the hospital window as I pretended to sleep, listening to Dr. Reeves discuss my case with a colleague in the hallway. Their voices carried through the thin walls, and every word felt like another nail in the coffin of my relationship with my sons. It's heartbreaking, really, Doctor, Reeves was saying. 7 days now, and not one family member has visited. I've called multiple times, explained the severity of his condition, but they keep making excuses. What kind of excuses? The other doctor asked. Business meetings, social obligations, scheduling conflicts. Yesterday, the eldest son told me they'd try to visit this weekend if they could fit it in. Fit it in? As if their father's recovery is something to squeeze between a golf game and dinner party. I opened my eyes and stared at the ceiling, feeling a strange calm wash over me. The hurt was still there, sharp and deep, but it was joined by something else now, clarity. For the first time in years, I could see my situation with perfect, painful clarity. My sons weren't coming because they didn't want to come. It was that simple. I reached for the phone and dialed Eleanor's number. She answered immediately, as if she'd been waiting by the phone. Harold, how are you feeling today? Better, I said, and meant it. Eleanor, I need you to start the process we discussed. All of it. Are you absolutely certain? Once I make these calls, there's no undoing it. I thought about the $8.3 million sitting in accounts my sons knew nothing about. Money I'd saved and invested for 40 years, planning to leave it to them when I died. Money that could solve all their problems, pay off their debts, give them the genuine wealth they'd been pretending to have. I'm certain they've made their choice, and now I'm making mine. After I hung up, I asked Maria for more paper. My hands were steadier today, and I had important work to do. The first letter was for Thomas and Benjamin, explaining everything they'd lost through their own selfishness. The second was for my lawyer, with very specific instructions about my will. But there was a third letter I needed to write, one that would go to Dr. Reeves and the hospital staff who'd shown me more kindness in 1 week than my own family had in years. Dr. Reeves appeared in my doorway around noon, carrying a clipboard and wearing the gentle smile that had become so familiar. Harold, I have wonderful news. Your recovery has been remarkable. We're going to discharge you tomorrow morning. That's excellent news, doctor. She sat down in the visitor's chair, the same chair that had remained empty except for the medical staff who'd taken time to sit with me. Have you made arrangements for your care at home? You'll need someone to help you for the first few weeks. Actually, I won't be going home. Her expression shifted to concern. What do you mean? I mean, I'm moving away, far away, to a place where people actually want me around. I told her about Eleanor, about the retirement community in California, about my decision to start over somewhere new. What I didn't tell her was about the fortune I was leaving behind, or the shock my sons were about to receive. Harold, are you sure about this? It's a big decision to make so soon after a major medical event. Doctor, I've had 7 days to think about nothing else. 7 days to realize that my sons see me as an obligation, not a father. 7 days to understand that I've been holding onto a relationship that died years ago. That afternoon, I made the arrangements. Eleanor would fly out to help me pack and travel. A moving company would handle my belongings. The house would go on the market immediately. But the most important call was to my lawyer, James Morrison, who'd handled my affairs for 20 years. He was one of the few people who knew about my hidden wealth. Harold, I'm so sorry to hear about your heart attack. How are you feeling? Like a man who's finally seeing clearly, James. I need to make some changes to my will. Major changes. I explained what I wanted, and I could hear the shock in his voice. Harold, are you certain about this? Your sons have no idea about your financial situation. This will come as a complete shock to them. That's exactly what I'm counting on. The next morning, as I prepared for discharge, I sealed the 3 letters in separate envelopes. The one for my sons went on the bedside table where they couldn't miss it. The one for my lawyer went into my jacket pocket. The third one I handed directly to Dr. Reeves. Don't open this until after I've left, I told her. And don't feel obligated by what's inside. It's a gift, not an obligation. She looked puzzled but accepted the envelope. Eleanor arrived that afternoon, looking exactly like her sister had at that age. Seeing her brought back a flood of memories of Margaret, but good ones this time. Happy ones. Oh, Harold, she said, embracing me carefully. I'm so sorry it's come to this. Don't be sorry. I should have done this years ago. We left the hospital together, walking past the nurses' station where Maria and the other staff who'd cared for me waved goodbye. They'd been more of a family to me in 7 days than my sons had been in 7 years. As our taxi pulled away from the hospital, I felt something I hadn't experienced since Margaret died. Hope. Not hope that my sons would change, or that things would go back to the way they were. Hope for something new, something better. My phone rang as we reached the airport. Thomas's number appeared on the screen. Dad? We just got your message about being discharged. We're on our way to the hospital now. Don't bother, I said calmly. I'm not there anymore. What do you mean you're not there? Where are you? I'm starting over, Thomas. Somewhere I'm wanted. Dad, wait. We can explain about this week. Veronica's gala was important, and Benjamin had that conference, but we were planning to visit today. We brought flowers. Flowers. After 7 days of abandonment, they'd brought flowers. Read the letter I left for you, I said. Both of you read it carefully. Then call James Morrison. He has something to tell you that's going to change your perspective on a lot of things. I hung up and turned off the phone. Eleanor squeezed my hand as our plane taxied down the runway. Any regrets? I thought about the empty hospital bed my sons were probably staring at right now. I thought about the letter that would shatter their assumptions about their poor carpenter father. I thought about the fortune they'd just lost through their own selfishness. None, I said. Not a single one. The hospital room felt smaller somehow as Thomas and I stood in the doorway, staring at the perfectly made bed where our father should have been. The white sheets were crisp and clean, tucked with military precision, as if no one had ever been there at all. But there, on the bedside table, sat a single envelope with our names written in Dad's familiar handwriting. Where is he? Benjamin whispered. his voice cracking like it used to when we were kids and got in trouble. I couldn't answer. My throat felt tight, and my hands were shaking as I reached for the envelope. The paper felt heavy in my fingers, heavier than it should have been for just a letter. "Sir?" A nurse appeared behind us, her name tag reading Maria. "Are you Mr. Mitchell's sons?" "Yes," I managed. "Where is our father?" Her expression was carefully neutral, but I caught something in her eyes. Disappointment? Anger? "He was discharged yesterday. He left that for you." "Discharged? But we just got his message. We came as soon as we could." Maria's professional mask slipped slightly. "He was here for 7 days. 7 days! And you never came. Not once." The words hit me like a physical blow. Benjamin made a small sound beside me, like air being let out of a balloon. "We had obligations," I said weakly. "Important commitments. More important than your father's life?" Maria's voice was quiet, but it carried the weight of judgment. "He asked about you every day. Every single day he watched that door, hoping you'd walk through it." She turned and walked away, leaving us alone with the letter and our guilt. My hands trembled as I tore open the envelope. Benjamin crowded close, reading over my shoulder as I unfolded the single sheet of paper. Asterisk. Thomas and Benjamin. Asterisk. Asterisk. "By the time you read this, I'll be gone. Not dead, though I know that might be easier for you to understand. I've moved away to start a new life with people who actually want me in theirs. Asterisk. Asterisk. I spent 7 days in this hospital bed, 7 days fighting for my life, and you couldn't spare a single hour to visit your father. A charity gala was more important. A business conference was more important. Your social obligations were more important than the man who raised you. Asterisk. Asterisk. I've had a lot of time to think about where I went wrong as a father. I thought I was teaching you humility by living simply. I thought I was showing you the value of hard work by hiding my success. I was wrong. Asterisk. Asterisk. You want to know the truth? Your poor carpenter father, the one you're ashamed to introduce to your fancy friends, is worth more than $8 million. Asterisk. Benjamin gasped beside me, and I had to read the line 3 times before it sank in. Asterisk. That's right. 8 million. The construction tool I invented 20 years ago has been earning royalties ever since. The investments I made with your mother's life insurance money have grown beyond anything I imagined. Every month, I could have bought you anything you wanted, solved all your financial problems, given you the real wealth you've been pretending to have. Asterisk. Asterisk. But I wanted you to earn it. I wanted you to prove you were worthy of it. I wanted you to show me that you valued family more than money. Asterisk. You failed. Asterisk. I'm donating every penny to charity. The hospital where strangers showed me more kindness than my own sons will receive the largest portion. Dr. Reeves and the nursing staff who sat with me, who cared about me, who treated me like family when my real family abandoned me, will be well rewarded for their compassion. Asterisk. Asterisk. You'll inherit nothing except the knowledge that your greed and selfishness cost you everything. You chose a party over your father's life, and now you'll live with that choice forever. Asterisk. Asterisk. Don't try to find me. I'm done being disappointed by the men I raised. Asterisk. Harold Mitchell. The letter slipped from my numb fingers and fluttered to the floor. Benjamin was making choking sounds, his face white as paper. I felt like I was drowning, like the hospital room was filling with water and I couldn't breathe. $8 million. $8 million that could have saved my failing business, paid off our crushing debts, given us the life we'd been desperately trying to fake. And we'd lost it all because we couldn't leave Veronica's stupid party. "This can't be real," Benjamin whispered. "Dad was a carpenter. He lived in that tiny house, drove that old truck. But even as he said it, I was remembering things. The way Dad never seemed worried about money, even after Mom died. How he'd paid for our college educations without taking loans. The modest gifts he'd given us over the years that we'd been embarrassed by, not realizing they represented incredible restraint from a man who could have bought us cars and houses. My phone rang. James Morrison, Dad's lawyer. With shaking hands, I answered. Thomas, I've been expecting your call. Your father asked me to speak with you after you read his letter. Mr. Morrison, please tell me this is some kind of mistake. Dad couldn't have had $8 million. I'm afraid it's all true, Thomas. Your father was one of the wealthiest men I've ever represented, and as of yesterday, you and your brother are no longer his beneficiaries. The phone slipped from my hand and clattered to the floor. Benjamin picked it up, his voice desperate as he spoke to the lawyer. There has to be something we can do, some way to contest this. He was sick, maybe not thinking clearly. I could hear Morrison's voice through the speaker, calm and professional. Your father was completely lucid when he made these changes. He'd been considering them for some time, apparently. The heart attack and your absence simply confirmed his decision. Benjamin hung up and slumped against the wall. Veronica? He said suddenly. Oh God, Veronica. She convinced us to stay. She said Dad would understand, that the party was more important. The full weight of our situation crashed down on me. Not only had we lost our father and our inheritance, but we'd lost them for the most shallow, meaningless reasons imaginable. We'd chosen appearances over love, social status over family. And now, we had nothing. What are we going to do? Benjamin asked, tears streaming down his face. I looked around the empty hospital room, at the bed where our father had lain dying while we sipped champagne and made small talk with people who didn't really care about us. I thought about Veronica, probably at home right now planning her next social event, oblivious to the fact that she'd helped destroy our family and our future. I don't know, I whispered. I honestly don't know. The nurse, Maria, appeared in the doorway again. Visiting hours are over, she said quietly. You need to leave. As we walked toward the elevator, I caught sight of a plaque on the wall I'd never noticed before. It was new, the brass still shining. The Harold Mitchell Family Care Fund, established in memory of the importance of family. Our father wasn't dead, but he'd memorialized himself anyway. And us? We were the cautionary tale, the sons who'd lost everything because we'd forgotten what really mattered. The elevator doors closed, and Benjamin and I rode down in silence. Two men who'd just discovered they were poorer than they'd ever imagined, in every way that counted.